Hi, my name is Jason Bunn-Parsons, and I'm here with my mentor, Sue Gallbach, again. And so we just got done finishing a three-part series on the core concepts of, um, of autism that we would like to become public policy. And we introduced our qualifications in the first video, so I'm not going to take up a lot of time for us repeating everything. But but we're attaching this video to that, to the playlist, to the YouTube playlist, because today's subject is mentioned in the first point of that document, and we'd said that we'll address it in future, and that's the human rights of autistic Aspies that society needs to respect. Okay, and the whole reason why this is being done is not because people need to be aware that we have these rights, but the fact that these rights aren't always being respected by a lot of people, and some people are well-meaning and everything when doing this, but the fact is these rights are not being universally respected. And so, starting off with the first one, the right to self identify in a manner that provides them with the highest quality of life possible. So, technically, Sue and I are politically incorrect by saying that we're autistics, because you're supposed to say you're a person with autism because you put because you put the person ahead of the disease. Well, I don't have a disease. I have non-typical neurology. Okay, there are certain situations where my neurology is to an advantage, and there's other situations where it's at a disadvantage. Okay, and so for me to say, to use the person first terminology from my perspective, I'm denying my strengths. I'm downplaying my strengths. I appreciate the fact that others have a completely different viewpoint, and they are entitled to that right. One of the viewpoints that is to is a lot of autistics are rejecting the DSM-5, and they insist on still calling themselves Aspies. They have their reasoning for it. Okay. Oh, but wait a minute. We can no longer call ourselves that anymore because somebody just came up with this allegation that Dr. Hans Asperger was a war criminal, and therefore we're to stop saying that we're Aspies. And basically, yeah, we get upset when the non-autistic community starts dictating to us what we're to believe about ourselves, but then we turn around and start dictating to our fellow autistics. It's like, well, no, that's not right. No, everybody identifies with however what with the, what with whatever works for them. Now, Sue and I have had a conversation, prior to doing this, as far as I was using the term um, atypical, and she pointed out that that was actually grammatically incorrect, because atypical would suggest a absence of typical. So I will be changing my previous documentation to non-typical, because that is that is a grammatically correct way of saying it. But as far as, I'm not going to change all my terminology every time somebody decides that they're now offended with the new terminology, because there's literally at this point no terminology that we can say that isn't going to offend somebody. And so anyway, so Sue, I'll let you go ahead and tag in on what I've said to this point.
I agree with what Jason has said, that it is extremely difficult to be politically correct in all terms for everyone. Someone's going to always disagree. The point I think Jason is trying to make is that when it comes to us as a person, no one should be telling us how we should feel about and label ourselves. Um, if you were to take away my autism, I wouldn't know who I was. Um, I have learned to live and like the person that I have become, that I am. And I don't want someone telling me how I should identify and what words would help me to identify who I am. Um, if I'm as an individual, I should have that right to say any word I want without other people being offended. Now, if I'm going out and representing, saying I represent the autistic community, then I do have to be respectful of the views of other people. And I
Mhm.
may have to do what Jason did, is put a slash. This, or this, whatever term you want. I am going to be respectful of the word that you want to use.
Mhm. And so then another issue as far with the person first is are well, when you're actually dealing with situations that we find ourselves in, are you truly putting the person ahead of the diagnosis? The best example of this is when there's a conflict. Oh, the autistic, has a social disorder, therefore any conflicts must be his fault. And like I said, I didn't get diagnosed till 2009 at the age of 40. I know how I was treated when I was involved in conflicts before I got diagnosed and how I've been treated since then. And it is a night and day difference where people no longer have to defend their position. Oh, I'm autistic, so it's therefore my fault. And and I could do a number of other examples, but that's the most blatantly obvious example, is that if you truly are going to be person first, then you need to let us present our case when we are in conflict. Yeah, give us the chance to tell our side of the story before rendering a verdict based solely on our diagnosis. So, Sue, you want to comment on anything about
No,
that?
ready to go
Okay.
on.
Okay. So the right to your own unique individual self. This is something that I learned in my general purpose 12-step program I attended, which I worked on issues of codependency. And the definition that we use is when your identity and self-worth rests in other people. And so basically, oh, the neurotypicals are annoyed that I do this. Well, this neurotypical is annoyed that I do this. This other neurotypical, wants me to do something completely different. So here I am. I'm just basically behaving however the neurotypical in the room is wanting me to behave, because every one of them wants something different, and that's called codependency. Okay, well, when you are entirely obsessed with what everybody around you wants you to be, that's called codependency. That is unhealthy, and that is a mindset that I have rejected from day one of my diagnoses. Is that yeah, I still embrace all of my coda rights, which includes the right to be my own unique self. So, Sue,
I agree.
yeah, okay.
I felt, because I wasn't diagnosed until my 50s, which is when they finally acknowledged that, gee, you can be autistic and still be highly intelligent and very
Mm-hmm.
verbal. Um, Prior to that, I felt I had no choice but to do what other people expected me to do, um, because I didn't know that I had a right to be the person I was. I felt I had to be what other people wanted and expected to me. I grew up and am still struggling with post traumatic stress. And the stress that comes from masking all those years. I'm still dealing with those underlying issues. Um, and I totally agree with Jason. That was not fair
Mm-hmm.
to me. I had 50 years of not knowing who I was or having a sense of self. If my husband asked me, "What is it you want?" I want to do something that you want. And my response was, "I don't know what's a want. I don't have any wants," because I had given up wanting anything for myself because I had no self identity.
Mm-hmm.
So I totally agree with Jason on this fact that we are and need to be allowed to be the unique self that we are.
Okay, so I'll scroll up a little bit here. The right to self-determination in setting our own goals. Um, okay, it's yeah, I realize that a lot of members of our community. Well, I work professionally as a instructional aide in school, and yeah, I work in the classrooms with the children with the highest support needs, and so yeah, that so so as far yeah, we do have to protect them from themselves at points, but at the same time, you know, and this is actually a concept that's getting integrated more into the educational system in general, is giving the students a say in how things go in the classroom, and so yeah, there's a bit of a balance here, but as far as as an adult, my right to self-determination is okay. If I want to you know to to go to school to be a doctor, okay, I need to be supported in that, and so one of the problems I see in a lot of these autism programs, okay, well, I went to voc rehab back in 2015, and the only job opportunities that they could give me is menial labor stuff, mopping floors, being prep cook. There's literally no other options as far as, well, as far as going to school. Yeah, that's another matter. But as far as getting me a job, they had no options beyond just simply having me do menial labor. And so I was assigned to this one restaurant, and as a prep cook, and it's like, well, I would like to try to be a waiter because I've had some past experience doing room service stuff like that, and 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 the manager was absolutely shocked. It's like, because they only bring us in for menial labor. The idea that we could actually do any job that any other person is doing, that we could also do that, yeah, it was just just completely beyond them, and so yeah, there's just so many different ways. Well, we could probably spend 2 hours on this subject as far as how this is not being honored by society, but Sue, you go ahead and chime in on this a little bit.
Hey, I have a very good autistic friend who went through vocational rehab, and exactly the same thing happened.
Mm-hmm.
She is highly intelligent. She has multiple languages that she can speak. And
Mm-hmm.
yet, what did they suggest? She be a gardener because she liked
Mm-hmm.
being outside. No, they totally ignore the strengths that we have and only look at us as disabled. And therefore, we're assigned to, to menial tasks. Um, Most autistics have a wealth of knowledge. They have special strengths that other people don't. And actually, that is what is most motivating and of interest to us. I mean, mine was understanding the brain, why my brain was different. And I was able to pursue it by becoming an occupational therapist. And every year I would set my own goals as to what I needed to learn and the direction I went. I was able to do that. But I wasn't under control of the system. And the system, unfortunately, is denying a lot of them um, because they can't see how this lining things up is a strength. The
Mm-hmm.
ability to organize and see how things fit together and can organize. And they could become an accountant. They could become even stocking groceries in a grocery store. If, but tap into their strengths. Those are the goals that they are most interested in.
So, okay, and so that then next on to number four, the right to be given the benefit of the doubt that they might be able to exceed the expectations of others when given the chance. There's this really great story about a young lady in Toronto, Canada. At least she was several years ago in Toronto. Carly Fleischman. Okay, and so early on, for the first 12 years of her life, she was nonverbal. So her only communication was through behaviors, and picture the worst behaviors you've seen autistics doing, and there's literally videos of her banging her head and doing all this other stuff. Then one day she walks up to a laptop, and she types in the word hurt. Then she types in the word help, and everybody's shocked because they'd never taught her these words. And turns out that, yeah, she actually is just intelligent. her therapist, said that prior to that, they just assumed that she was mentally retarded, okay, and that she lacked intelligence. And then one day she walks up to this laptop and blows everybody out of the water by showing that, oh yeah, she had a lot of intelligence. She just lacked the capacity to express that intelligence in an effective manner. And I'm just going to tag you in right now, Sue, because I know you got a lot to say on this.
And that's what they call assume competence. Just because she's not able to express it doesn't mean she doesn't understand what's happening. Most people assume that if you don't have words to express, you don't have thoughts behind those words. But yes, we can have very deep, intense thoughts, but still lack the motor ability to coordinate breathing with articulation in the mouth area to be able to speak. Most autistics have difficulty with motor coordination of some kind. Those that have it involving coordinating the breathing with the talking are going to struggle with expressing themselves. That doesn't mean they don't think and don't have thoughts. And that's why augmentative communication is often offered. But we have to realize total communication, not just one device. Using pictures, there's a lot of gestures. There's so many other ways that an individual, including just reading their behaviors. If someone is upset, there's lots of reasons to be upset. If you don't see it happening in the environment, then it may be what's happening inside that person. But they're upset about something. And if by acknowledging your behavior is telling me you're upset. And as Jason has pointed out before, if you do the guessing game, could it be this? Could it be that? And usually if they recognize it, most everyone has a way of saying, I agree or I don't agree, yes or no. So assume competence, that they are going to understand. Yes, because we have auditory processing challenges, it's going to take longer. You can't rattle through things fast because you've got to give us a chance, or that individual a chance, to be able to respond. So slow it down.
Yeah.
But don't assume they can't.
Okay. And then the right to not have the struggles of other autistic Aspies held against them, so they're denied the opportunity to achieve their fullest potential. Back in 2012, I was trying to get back into the workforce, and so so I wanted to work with children. So I volunteered to work at the nearest public school to where I lived. It was literally within walking distance, and so but they're like, okay, well, so we'll work you one day a week for no more than 4 hours. And I'm like, okay, I had already prior to that had jobs where I worked 5 consecutive 12-hour shifts. Okay. And so yes, I realized that a number of members of our community, yeah, maybe they are limited to where they can only work 4 hours. Okay. I respect the fact that there are some that need that consideration. I don't. I have never needed that consideration. Okay. And so so yeah, that's just one of the most obvious examples of where when I've experienced this, since my diagnosis. Sue?
There's a saying, if you've met an autistic person, you've met one autistic person. Everyone, like in the non-autistic world, the neurotypical world, everyone is an individual, and they need to be recognized as an individual. Look at their strengths and look at what things that are challenging for them. But make the decision based on that individual, not their diagnosis. I think you could take any other disability and you're going to find the same thing. Just because you identify a person with visual impairment, not all of them have the same visual impairment. Some can see light, some can see shapes or maybe even colors of some kind. But each individual is going to be different, and that's how they need to be addressed.
Okay, and so all right, the right to emotionally safe environment in which they can grow and develop. Uh, I dealt with this a lot in the previous series that Sue and I did, critiquing the autism educational system and talking about how important it is to have a calm, stress-free environment. So many people emphasize, oh, you need structure, you need structure, you need structure. Well, if the structure leads to a calm environment, then yes, the structure is great. But if the structure is that being created by somebody who literally has a military background, okay, military is not very flexible, and this particular, I know that they weren't yelling, like a drill sergeant or anything like that. Wasn't that bad. But as far as the idea that structure was absolute, structure was inflexible, and it's like, no, that's not the key. The key is to have a calm, relaxed environment, because our brains are naturally hyper stimulated. Okay, if you want to work with us, the first thing that you have to do with a lot of us is to slow our brains down so we can process the information that you're wanting to disseminate to us. Sue, go for it.
Yeah, I'm all for the fact that the environment plays a big role in how we respond to things. Um, I know one of when I met with the autism resource specialist when I was going through the process of self-diagnosis and wanting a diagnosis, I told her my crowning achievement was being able to go to lunch with a couple of friends, um, because that's what people do. And I thought I finally figured out how to do that because of the challenges. I am so sensitive to movement that anyone walking by was going to be a major
Mhm.
distraction for me.
Same here.
Um, the noise coming from the kitchen or someone drops something could startle me. And then everything is like my whole brain is shattered and I have to put the pieces back together again. Um, if I'm trying to eat and talk, well, then the breathing, I tend to aspirate because I'm not paying attention. I'm trying to pay attention to them and I'm not paying attention to where the food is in my mouth. All of those things play a role that doesn't happen with typical people. When I explained how hard that was and what I had achieved by I could do it and even maybe say a few words to contribute to the conversation, the autism resource specialist said, "And what did you learn about your friends?" My jaw dropped. Like I was supposed to, in addition to dealing with all of this stimuli coming from the environment, I was supposed to be learning something about my friends. That was the purpose of going to lunch with them. I mean, I had no idea. And I was by that time, I was in my 30s and 40s.
Mhm.
And I had not yet figured out. So, yes, that is not the kind of environment where I can learn something about friends.
So, okay. So, okay, so let's see here. 7, the right to not have their diagnosis used against them in situations involving conflicts. We basically addressed that in point number 2. Unless you want to add anything to that, Sue.
No,
Okay.
I agree.
Uh, okay. Um, the right to be protected from mistreatment and bullying, and again, that's common sense. As far as how to actually protect anybody from being bullied, I think that's a lot easier said than done. I know that there's all these programs that have been set up, and they talk about, oh yes, we have this reduction in the number of bullying cases being reported. Well, is that because the victims have stopped reporting them? So anyways, yeah, that's not an easy topic, to discuss how to actually put an end to that. So Um,
There are two
so
things that I would bring up.
yeah.
Number one, people that bully pick on what they see as a weakness
Mm-hmm.
that someone feels ashamed of and doesn't want exposed.
Mm-hmm.
If autistics are taught to be proud of the person they are, confident in their abilities, never mind things they don't do, but be proud
Mm-hmm.
of what they can do, they're not as likely to be bullied.
Mm-hmm.
Then the other thing is school systems, I know, have been addressing this issue for a long time. Unfortunately, it really takes the peers of that person that's bullying to make that bullying feel bad about what he is
Mm-hmm.
doing. And so, if schools, rather than just disciplining the person doing the bullying, work on peer pressure,
Mm-hmm.
that would go a long way. Both of
Yeah.
those things, I think, would go a long way to decrease what is currently happening.
Yeah, and the one last thing I might contribute, as far as okay, how do we cure bullying? Okay, one of the things, concepts that I learned in my my recovery program is that hurt people hurt people. A lot of these bullies are being, abused at home, whether by their parents, older siblings, other relatives, next door neighbors, whatever, you know. So yeah, that's. But again, we could spend 2 hours on this topic. The okay. So number nine, the right to make their means make their needs known with the hope that they might be met. Okay, and yeah, that's something as far as you know yeah as far as people asking us what we want, especially when we're talking about, the autism organizations. They have all these wonderful programs, set out, for, to provide the support that they think that we need. Well, what about what we think we need? And creating the programs that we're wanting them to create. And so, anyway, Sue, you want to?
And that's where I know the um, Autism Self Advocacy Network has put out a list of what autistics really want to learn.
Mm-hmm.
None of those things, like self awareness. Who is teaching autistics how to be the best autistics we can be? No, no one is teaching that. You're teaching us skills so that we can be like or appear to be like everyone else, rather than asking us what is it we need to be the best autistic person we can be. um, and executive functioning skills, self-awareness, self-advocacy, those are issues that we do need support in, but those are not issues that are typically targeted as goals or worked on, and yet they could very very easily incorporate it into existing programs.
Okay, yeah, I'm trying to find shoot, I wasn't able to find the document, but one of the things that I'm wanting to do is a autism clubhouse, okay, modeled after the AA clubhouses where that they use them to have meetings at a certain time of the day, but when they're not being used as meetings, they're social gatherings, and I actually have material, but I didn't think about having that prepared to present. But anyways, I have done a video series, a previous one. If you look at the my playlist called Autism Ambassadors Corps, okay, and the video projects, okay, AAC projects, okay. If you just do a YouTube search of that, you'll see what my full vision is, okay. And so that's an idea of a project, that I would like to see have happen. So let's see here. Um, 10, the right to receive the support necessary to improve their quality of life. Um, yeah, pretty self-explanatory. Sue, you want to chime in on that at all?
And again, it depends on what you consider support.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this kind of goes back to, oh, all autistics need visual pictures. All autistics need, in terms of support. Um, and oftentimes they think of support as prompts are not a form of support. They're a strategy that you use to teach someone something.
Mm-hmm.
But oftentimes it's put in there with, these are the supports that autistic individuals need. And we go back to the fact that we have a right as an individual to what individual supports I need, in the areas that I struggle with that others may not.
Mm-hmm.
But using the strengths, if you use my strengths, you're working with me to help support my ability to do things rather than you deciding what supports I need. Work with me with
Mm-hmm.
my strengths that will support me in the direction I want to go and what I think I can do.
All right, and I just thought of an example. Another example of this is I run a Tuesday night support group, in which is a self improvement group, and I make it very clear to everybody that I'm not going to do an assessment and tell you what you need to fix. You tell me what you're dissatisfied with, and we'll support you in overcoming that. But yeah, I'm not your supreme dictator. And so yeah, that's. Anyways, so moving on to number 11 here. Um, okay, so um, the right to self-expression and to have their own viewpoints treated as valid. This includes, but is not limited to, the right to object. When we feel when they feel that the judgments that others make about them or their community are wrong. This is again something I learned from code recovery, is that I have a right to object. B, when those who have authority over them, one, become so focused on fixing their struggles that their strengths are overlooked. Two, when they're forced to follow a path that's um, that that's okay. Typo there needs to be adjusted. That increases the likelihood of struggle. And both these areas we are getting better on as a community. But we still need improvement here. To and then also object to the autism organizations that, one, depict autism in a way that's conducive to fundraising but detrimental to how societies view autistic Aspies, resulting in those who are capable of great achievements being denied the opportunity to try because those who can't are the face of the fundraisers. Two, pay their executives absorbent salaries with the funds that they raise in the names of the autistic Aspies they claim to represent. And three, deny meaningful representation chosen by the autistic Aspie advocate community that would give them the opportunity to shape how the organizations present autism to the public and spend should have scrolled it up a little bit more and spend the funds. Okay, autism to the public and spends the funds the organization raises in their name. So Sue, you want to go ahead and chime in on this first?
Okay, let's take a look at the first A and B.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, yeah.
there are a lot that things that we have the right to object to. um, and there are many cases in which inadvertently those that are trying to support an autistic individual, trying to work with and help them learn, actually end up triggering and making it harder for them to learn. I can give you an example of a situation where, and here's my mind just went blank. For example, the individual is upset, clearly upset. So, what does the therapist or educator do? They put in front of them, oh, here, you've got choices to calm down. You could do this, you could do this, you could do that. Well, when you're in the throes of an emotion, you're in the emotional part of your brain, it's really hard to all of a sudden shift, especially for autistics, to the thinking area of your brain and say, oh, yes, I guess I could do this, and then initiate that, which is an executive function. It's a matter of connectivity. You're expecting, it's like a parent telling the child, now calm down and use your words. Well, not understanding the way the autistic brain works, connectivity is inconsistent. We can't easily shift when we're in one area of the brain to another area of the brain, but there are ways that you could better support us instead of all of a sudden expecting us to shift from being emotional. Um, if you present us with, for example, something that calms us down, something that is comfortable and familiar to us, allowing us to stim. Those are things that we understand we need to do to calm ourselves down. And if you would encourage us, go ahead and stim if that works for you. And then when you've calmed down, let's talk about what you might do to even further calm down. You need to be able to learn to work with the way the autistic brain functions, or you are inadvertently increasing the challenges that we're facing. Jason, did you want to talk any more about A and B?
No. Yeah. Go ahead and continue to the end.
Okay. I was invited when the state of Arizona formed in a conglomerate of autistic organizations called the Arizona Coalition. I pointed out to the board members, interestingly, you don't have an autistic individual on your board. So, okay, they met and said, okay, we'll let you join. But I very quickly figured out I had no voting rights. I could sit in the meetings, I could listen to it. I could even say what I wanted to say, but they were still going to make the decisions. I wasn't a part of that. This has happened with many other autistic organizations that have given token representation to autistic individuals. Most other organizations for the blind, for those for muscular dystrophy, whatever the disability is, the core people that sit on the board are individuals that represent that disability. And this is where we are both perplexed and upset that we are not being given the voice to control the decisions that these organizations make, supposedly on our behalf. Do you have any further comments, Jason?
Okay, and so with that, I'm going to catapult this over to as far as the media, basically that only interviewing the autism organizations. I have been interviewed twice by the media. Both times it was to sell somebody else's program. The first time was when I was part of a brain study, done. As far as the aging, the autistic brain, do we age differently? And so I was interviewed, in support of that, and and they carefully, picked the parts of it, cherry picked, the interview to where I just look like this brainless zombie that just goes through life, in this daze, and oh, shouldn't you feel sorry for me because my life is just blah, yeah. And so then the second time was actually this past spring. My school was being interviewed for, for the programs that they were doing in accordance with Autism Awareness Month. So I got interviewed by two different media organizations that showed up. One never included any part of my interview, which actually I preferred to the one that actually did give like 17 seconds to me, and at no time did they say I actually work at the school. All they said is that I showed up for the event, and 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 I expressed my appreciation to the school for being able to do things that goes beyond what IAs are typically allowed to do, and then absolutely cut me off right there. It's like, you know, it's, and yes, I am appreciative of Mr. Lodato, the principal, and Mr. Lovelady, the master teacher of the autism program. And in fact, that first series that Sue and I did, I talked about how the things I have accomplished there wouldn't have been accomplished without people like them, high enough in the chain of command, to make things happen. But the thing is, I didn't go there so that way the school can save me. I am there in order to, to contribute to the school what only an autistic could contribute when helping their fellow autistics. Okay. And that was completely omitted. Any reference to that was completely omitted. All they talked about is that I showed up for the event, and that I'm grateful to the school for opportunities that it's given me. They never mentioned a word about the fact that I'm making contributions that only an autistic would be able to make. So we can sell other people's programs, but what about our message? We definitely have a message, and a lot of our message is very positive, very proactive, very constructive. Sue and I have given all kinds of positive information that people can use to better understand, themselves if they're autistic, or their parents, their teachers. Yeah, that's what we want to do. But we're not even given that opportunity. Forget about actually expressing our grievances. That basically these autism organizations have appointed themselves as our representatives without our consultation or consent, giving us very little say in how autism is presented to the public or how the money is spent in terms of researcher services. Okay, and we're not happy about this, and so we have been speaking out, and the and yeah, none of them want to, to talk with us, and at least, if you want to ignore me, fine, because my credentials aren't that impressive. Sue, on the other hand, if when you disrespect her, you disrespect the entire autism community, because she is our gold standard. And if they won't interview her, what hope is there for the rest of us? Okay. And so so one of the things that that I'm kicking off that this Saturday is okay, so I need to change over to, let's see here, see how, okay, so I'm going, okay, let's try presenting. Okay, oh, that didn't, okay, so let's try it again. And I think this is it. Okay, so a blueprint for affecting the 2024 elections to benefit the autism community. Okay, and so it gives, these videos that we have worked on, and I've set up two petitions on change.org. One of them is to is making the concepts for understanding autism and the basic Human Rights of Autistic Aspies, the society needs to respect. So the 2 series that her and I have done as public policy. So so you can go there, to find that. And then another one is to ask for the local area residents of Phoenix to boycott the local media until they interview a member of the autistic advocacy community. Okay, so that way we can finally talk about what matters to us instead of only being allowed to talk about everybody else's part of what everybody else wants to talk about. Okay, and so then there's also going to be regular events. First Saturday of every month, starting January 6th, March to the Capitol will rendezvous at Encanto Park, which isn't too far away. And then B, all other Saturdays, starting immediately, public awareness at the libraries. I'm setting up at the Burton Bar Library to hand out literature and hoping to make alliances with other organizations that are concerned about education or disabilities of any kind. Okay, and then Thursday night community engagement meetings. And I have it from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. last Thursday of every month. And the reason for that is that I've made contact with people from Cody, Wyoming, which currently is in a different time zone than us. And so what I'm wanting to be able to do is to also include them in on this. And and when I talk about community engagements, I'm not talking about just doing protests. Okay, I have in the past organized 4 autism conferences, none of which ever got more than 15 people. No, actually, the last one got 16 people. Like, woohoo, 16. So I've never organized a major conference that draws 1,000 people, but I have organized these conferences, public, education, and so that's also part of what we're wanting to do. But yes, we do also want to engage, do demonstrations to, put our voice out, so that way people know that we're here and we have something to say and we want to be listened to. And so I'll be attaching the the link to all these documents, as well as to this to this brochure, to this video, so that way you can just simply click on the links to go if you want to sign the petitions in order to start making some meaningful changes around here. So anyway, Sue, would you like to chime in on anything?
I want to say I have known Jason for a good number of years. I have seen the evolution in Jason becoming the singular, purposeful person that he has become. And I'm very proud to say that I'm a friend of Jason's. I support the direction that he's going, and I will do anything I can to support it, Jason.
All right. Well, thank you. So once again, we went a few minutes over, but that's okay. We had a lot to say. And so I will be getting these up as soon as possible. The links are already up and valid for change.org. And so anyways, and then also in the contact information, you'll find whoops, one. Okay. My email, web address, which my web page, I've been having issues with getting it to work. But as far as event promotional page, I use meetup.com, and I also find my videos on YouTube and on LinkedIn. So anyways, so with that, I will go ahead and sign off, and I hope that that people will recognize the validity of this, that that we're not just standing up for autistics, but also for the educational system, addressing the educational system as a whole. We want to ally with people who have common ground interests, yeah, in these matters. So and with that, I'll go ahead and close out the video.